Let's say there's a group of people and they're all talking on this one topic. What I do is I sit there and I listen to everyone talking, and I feel like I'm outside of the group. And then I wait, and then they go, Jesse, what do you think? And then I have this weird ability to sum up and simplify everything they were talking about into this perfect structured thing instead of they were just like brainstorming. But I'm the guy who goes, this is what we're gonna do, like feeds back the advice and systematizes things.
Welcome to the Human Design Projectors Society podcast. I'm your host, Zette Harbour. Join me as we explore and dive deeply into the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of what it is to be a projector. Hi, I'm Zette Harbour with the Human Design Projector Society podcast, and today our guest is Jesse. He is a 1-3 self-projected projector, and we're going to invite him to share some stories, and we're going to explore his chart and see what lands for him and what he finds there. Welcome, Jesse. Please tell us a little bit about you.
My name is, Jesse Ball. I'm here in San Luis Obispo County, and I'm a hypnotherapist. So it's neat that I got into this world that's a little bit on the new age stuff, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then I was like, I just wanted to do like a form of therapy that was like, I don't know, this seems like a really effective form. And then it's the kind of thing where you just go, oh, it seems really based on science and maybe not mainstream so much. But then I just found myself exploring more and more as I went on. Like, what other theories are there about the mind? Because it's like experience is the best teacher. And once you see that stuff is working, like no matter what, like my popular opinion would be, you just start going, wait, this is fascinating. And then I found myself going down like endless rabbit holes going, I don't know about this like tarot card stuff, and I don't know about this astrology stuff. But then when I would apply it to my own life, I'd be like, I've never learned more about myself before. Like my own self-improvement is accelerating like crazy. So I just started going, wait, I want to devour everything that's out there. So then I guess more recently, I was like, okay, I exhausted a lot of these books and like things about like astrology and that kind of stuff. And I was like, what's there more out there? So then I think someone online had said, check out human design. It's like the most comprehensive thing to learn about yourself, like a framework for learning about yourself. And then I was like, okay, I got to check this out. But I just went through all like the apps and stuff. And then I was like, wait, do I want to invest in a subscription or do I want to talk to an expert? And then so I'm here to talk to you now.
Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. Yeah, I made that post on Facebook on that one group and you replied. And yeah, I love when the currents of life just bring people to us or bring us to where we need to be. And it sounds like you've really been letting life pull you along and discovering so many new and different things, which is great because there's definitely elements of your chart that make that really great and correct for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'll just introduce to everyone and to you as well, if you like, that the purpose of the Human Design Projector Society podcast is so that projectors watching these explorations will have a chance to see themselves and see elements of themselves. Because projectors, we are here to recognize, but mainly the other. And that's based on what shape the aura is and that sort of thing, which we'll get into more. And so it's equally important that we learn to self-recognize, but one of the best ways for us to do it is to observe what's going on with another person, and who better than another projector
Mm.
for a projector to go, oh, yeah, I have that element as well, and this is how I experience it. Because when we as projectors are able to truly recognize the nature of our design and our purpose, then we can live it out into the world more fully. And then the majority of type, which is the generator type, will actually be able to more clearly recognize us and invite projectors to do what we're here to do, which is to advise and guide. So I love that you are in the profession you're in, because that is a lovely space from which to advise and guide people once they have recognized you and invite you to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm sure that this whole hour is just going to be like confirmation. Like, you're already on the right path. You're already doing the right thing.
Yes, I agree. What I love about the human design exploration is that pretty much over and over, everyone says, I knew that about myself, but other people told me I shouldn't, or wasn't right, or maybe I should do something different. So it's very affirming of probably what
Yeah.
you're already experiencing.
Yeah,
And
and I feel like my path in life lately has just been the message is I'm here to just remove all of the doubts and just to get rid of the noise and to know what it is I should be doing. And then to just go full throttle with that.
I love that. All right. I'm going to pull up your chart. This is called the body graph, this shape here. And each of these shapes are called centers. And so this is the head center, the ajna, the throat, the G center, the heart center, the solar plexus, the sacral, the splenic, and the root center. And each one has a specific kind of energy that we experience. It's like an energy hub. And the energy flows through what are called channels. And the channels at each end of the channel is what's called a gate. So where you see this circle, that gray circle, and
Yeah.
then either a black or red portion, that is where a planet or the Earth or Sun or the nodes of the moon imprinted on your birth, the moment of your birth, or approximately 3 months before your birth. That's where the red part comes from. And it can only be calculated once the birth time has happened. That's when the black is imprinted. So let me try and circle back and say that in maybe a less confusing way. When you're born,
No, it's just fascinating. I'm loving it. So yeah, I'm already like, wait, what's the connection between the red and the black? That's fascinating.
yes. So it's really unique in human design because when we do astrology, we just look at the time of birth and where the planets and everything was during that birth time. With human design, you record the time of birth and you see where all these activations are. And then they calculate when the sun is 88 degrees prior to the moment of your birth, which is about 3 months. And that tells us what planets and the nodes and the earth and sun, what gates those were in during that time of your development. So what we have here is the black, which is personality. It is conscious. It's what we tend to see and recognize in ourselves. Whereas the red is unconscious and has a lot more to do with the body, the form, and we tend to either not really notice or be aware of it, or we might be able to look back and say, oh, that did happen, or that is something that happens, or people tell me that I do this or that, or I'm like this or that. And so the design is not something that is meant to even really be consciously understood by the personality, but over time you can learn to observe its effects and appreciate the innate traits that it has imprinted in you, in your body. So everything that's red in this body graph, you see here, we have a full red channel. That's unconscious. This particular gate, gate 7, is defined or activated unconsciously. You've got gate 10 here, and that actually is connecting to the 20. It doesn't look, it's a funny shape for a channel, but that is a full channel of energy flowing from the G center to the throat center. And so these different things are, so here you have a conscious and an unconscious activation in the same gate. And when I hold the cursor over this gate down on the body graph, you can see immediately way up here that these two, one over here in the black,
Yeah.
one over here in red, light up. Okay, so that gives you a little bit. Each of these centers has, like I said, a particular kind of energy experience, and they also correlate to different biological aspects. I do have a download, very brief and simple, but it can guide you. And I'll make sure if you haven't gotten that already, that you can get that. And anyone watching, you'll be able to get that too. I'll put a link in the description. It just gives you a little bit of a guide. So don't worry about memorizing anything right now about these centers. The ones that are colored in are called defined. The ones that are white are called undefined, or so they're undefined. This one's undefined. You see it has one gate that's activated, right? This
Yeah.
one also has a couple of gates that are activated. This one has no gates activated. This one has no gates activated. Therefore, we call them open as opposed to undefined. Just a slight differentiation, which means the white is always here to be receptive to the world It receives the energies of other people, as well as the transits and the global cycles and the different cycles of your lifetime. But it is not going to be energy that you have the ability to consistently and reliably experience these particular centers, as well as these gates. So, for instance, this gate here, when you meet somebody who has the opposing gate 6, then you will have the experience of the energy now flowing between the sacral center and the solar plexus. It will be temporary and you may not even feel it strongly. It really depends on the situation. Or you might feel it very strongly and suddenly feel that you have this consistent emotional wave that we talk about. Or you might feel like you have just a ton of energy and you could just go. All right.
Yeah.
But the minute that this gate is no longer activated because you've left the presence of that person or the transit has moved, you might find yourself wondering why you ever thought you had all that boundless energy. You might wonder, why did I do all that? You never know. So it's about observing and coming to recognize and be familiar with the energies and the languages, really, of each of the centers and the channels and gates. All right, I'm going to pause there for a second and just invite you to offer any observations or questions that you have.
Oh man, my brain just looks for patterns. So I'm just like, I'm really fascinated at the things that are empty with the open areas. Could you maybe elaborate on what that means for maybe not even for me, but for people in general? What is the significance of all these open areas?
Absolutely. So that is one of the qualities of a self-projected projector is that everything below the G center will be undefined, will be white as far as the centers. Obviously, you'll have gates, but you will not have any channels that are defined below the G center.
Yes.
What this creates is a great deal of openness and receptivity. And because this one, the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root are what we call motors. So picture a motor with motorized energy. This means that you, people like you and me, I'm a self-projected projector as well, we are not designed to have consistent, reliable, motorized energy in terms of how we live our lives. This is a splenic center, which is very much about intuition, instinct, survival, and well-being. And so in this case, your ability to experience your sense of well-being or survival or intuition or instinct will be inconsistent and unreliable. Those words are not negative. What it means is it's going to flow, it's going to ebb and it's going to flow, come and go, depending on, because you've got these three pointing here, you got these three, the 10, the 20, and the 16, all pointing here. So there's a lot of times where, or other people where you might find yourself tapping into your intuition in a way maybe you don't on other days or with.
Okay. This is something interesting for me to focus on because lately I've just been trying to, or maybe I need to learn like what my approach is to this. As I keep going, how do I consistently have something where I can tap into my intuition? And then I feel like I'll just have days where it's great, and then it comes and goes, and then I don't know if I need to let go of that sense of control or what.
That is so beautifully expressed, I want to tell you, because this particular, in fact, gate 16 is called the gate of skills, enthusiasm. And I'll just briefly, we'll dive down a little bit that with this line 5. And by the way, if you haven't read a lot of Ra's words or listened to him, he has a very funny choice of language.
Yeah.
The Grinch. Never take any of it literally or personally. He was someone who really liked to use language that would create a little friction and get people. Ah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So the refusal to share an enthusiasm is a lesson that this particular fifth line quality of gate 16 would be learning throughout its lifetime. So there may sometimes be a lack of confidence in the expression of skills, and you might need the encouragement of others, or a lack of confidence in the value of encouraging others. So it's a very interesting gate and line for you to have in terms, certainly, of the career you have chosen. And it would be inconsistent and unreliable. But what it does is when you connect to either a person or the cycle or a transit that has gate 48, which is the gate of depth, suddenly there's this depth from your intuitive place that you can express because it's going to the throat center. You can express through your talents, skills, and enthusiasm.
Nice.
Yeah. And with Jupiter having being the activating planet, Jupiter, we can tap into the archetypal energy of Jupiter. It's very expansive. It can be very much like the jovial, beneficent ruler in our sort of inner world. And so this may feel like it's the ruler in your internal life, not consciously necessarily, not even literally, but there may be a part of you that feels like it's your law, that you must be able to enrich life by harmonically channeling energy. You can see right here,
Mm.
great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. That might feel like, oh, that is something I'm like, that's what a requirement for me in my life that I must do.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if there's like a sequence you want to go through all of these, but I'm just now what comes to my mind now is one thing that I find unique about my personality is I'm a person where when I'm alone, and with my own thoughts, I'll have this kind of, it feels like my head is all like full of chaos and I'll be like, I don't have like, a structure. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't have any confidence. But then the moment that the need arises, and then I'm like, I have that magnetism between me and another person, I'll just find myself saying things that amaze me. Like I don't even know how it's coming out. And then I'll be like, wait, why is it that I'm so good at the spontaneity? But then and then I walk away and then I'm like, wait, where did that go? But it's the kind of thing where only when I'm needing it, or like even with my wife, I'll often be like, I didn't know I had this opinion until the words started coming out of my mouth. And I'll be like, can someone write this down for me, please?
100%. And we'll just jump right into a potential element of your design that is bringing that to you. So there are three different kinds of what we call circuitry. So each channel belongs to a circuit. And essentially, then each gate can be part of that circuit as well. And so this channel here is part of the individual circuitry. An individual circuitry, it's realizations that rise up in a pulse out of nowhere, as you so perfectly said, and then they disappear and you don't have any control. You can never go looking for them. You can't like you said, could someone write this down? Because it's gonna just it's like it pops, whoo, and then it's gone. And that is the correct expression of your individual circuitry here with the 61 going to 24. It's going from the head center, which is all about concepts and inspirations and ideas, also doubts and data and things like that. And it's going into the ajna, which is your computer processing center. It takes all of that mental stuff and like tries to put it in little shapes and patterns and organization. And then you also have gate 23, which is, again, this whole center line is part of the individual circuitry. There's more of it in the rest of the body graph, but for now, it's probably just easy to see how much individual circuitry you have going here,
Yes.
top to bottom, with a few gaps. Now, here, in fact, both of your channels that are fully defined are, this one's fully unconscious and this one's mostly unconscious. You can see here it's got two activations in the red, and it actually has two in the black, but they're the same gate, right? So individual circuitry already comes out of nowhere and goes back to nowhere without any choice on our part. However, for you, it's unconscious as well. So it's really coming out of nowhere, right? Your conscious self, your personal personality, who, believes who it is, doesn't even doubly know where this comes from and why. How does that sound? Let's just start there.
I don't know. Maybe I have to start talking about it and to figure out how that sounds.
Not at all, because here,
I'm overwhelmed by all the interesting stuff because I'm like, my brain is trying to process all of this and make sense of it. Maybe that's part of my projector thing here, but
wait,
my brain is immediately also just going for what do I need to do? Like, how do I don't know if that's part of my personality too, but then I'm like, is there like a strength that I need to capitalize on here that our types have like a tendency to need like a I don't know, like in other words, like can you start going over the pros and cons of our type?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're going there. Yes. So we'll just pop over here and you can see type, projector. The idea of type in human design is directly formed from the structure and quality of the way the aura engages. So your energy field engages in the world in the way that's described as being a projector. So, for instance, generators who are about 67% of the population, so two-thirds of the world, they have an open, enveloping aura, goes in all directions, open, enveloping. Everything's coming in and they are enveloping life.
Yes.
Projectors, we have a focused,
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absorbing aura. So when we meet someone, we laser in to their G center, basically, which is this right here, and we can absorb part of their energy field. We can see into them in ways that no other type can do. So when we are around generators who are open and enveloping, it is this natural partnership where the projector aura just goes right in because the generator's already open. Now, it's critical that the generator give permission, otherwise, it doesn't go well. But
Mhm.
the other examples are the manifestor aura is described as closed and repelling. But that is, you can think of it in the way like I think of it, which is one of those beautiful little creatures that lives in a shell. It does so because that's how it retains its nature, its integrity of its life. And manifestors are here to preserve the integrity of their unique vision and the way they want to impact the world. There's only about 9% of them, so very rare. The most rare is reflectors. They have what's called a resistant and sampling aura, and there's only about 1.25% of those. So they are here to reflect and also sample the environment and the people around them. So projectors, our auras really aren't designed to be focused and absorbing of either the manifestor or the reflector. Their auras aren't really built that way. But as far as generators, they're open, enveloping. We're
Mhm.
focused and absorbing. So there is a very unique and very special partnership between projectors and generators. So the key to having this kind of probing and focused aura is a couple of things. One, know that when a projector is focused in on and absorbing the energy of another person, we don't feel it, we ingest it. We taste it, we digest it. It goes through our body in a way that is completely unique. So, who we are around, who we have in our life, is critical to our health and well being. Very different than a generator. They can have other people's energy fields go in because they're open and enveloping, but they don't ingest the energy of the people. So projectors just in that level are more susceptible, but not in a bad way, but receptive. We're
Yeah.
permeable in a particular way. So understanding that is a very important thing. The other thing is to know the strategy for projectors, which is called wait for recognition and invitation. Now, there's so much behind the door. If this was a door to a room, there's a lot of stuff in this room, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, most often when projectors first hear that, there's this, ah, that sounds awful, right? I don't want to wait to be recognized. What do I do? Never leave my house until someone comes and gets me? Different things. But the beauty is that because we have that probing and focused and absorbing aura, when we are recognized for the gifts that we uniquely bring to this world, and we are invited to do what it is we do best, which is go in and focus on and absorb and be able to guide and advise people, particularly generators. When we are truly recognized and invited, then that's the best use of our aura. right? Because
Yeah. Oh
whenever,
my God, Zette. Like I have to interrupt you here because
oh,
this actually resonates with me like almost more than anything that you're describing.
yeah.
And like when I first looked up my type and I saw this was the major thing I wanted to delve into because I was like, oh my God, this explains 80% of my confusion about myself. Because this is exactly what I do, for sure. I my whole life I've always been this person where like I withhold myself from people or I want people to really care and give me their full attention and know what I'm going to say. Like even when I was a little kid, I would do the whole, I would say something that I thought was so important, and someone go, "I'm sorry, I wasn't listening," and I'd be like, "I don't. Okay, you're not going to listen to me. We're done. We're done. That doesn't matter anymore. You didn't want to listen. You missed your opportunity. That was, you clearly don't care. Like I'm testing people all the time, and then the other thing is that the way I always put it is I don't want to waste my energy because it's like I'm at this point in my life where I used to try out the other strategy, which was just like, I feel you, let me help you. And then it would just backfire constantly. So I think I'm maybe leaning more into my strength, if it's a strength, but it's the idea of just, I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna withhold everything. And then when someone asks me for advice, then I am there for them. And it's as if like I kind of change into a different person. So this is the thing that used to confuse me. I was like, why am I so chameleon like? That I'm like withheld and then suddenly I'm there for you, but only when you ask.
Yes, and when it's a correct invitation as well, because when you're a projector, people do recognize that you will donate your energy. And so there can be tons of invitations, but are they genuinely recognizing you for the unique and specific gifts that you bring? That's part, a really very important part of this process of being recognized and invited. And so what you're describing as feeling like I just wasted my energy on someone who didn't care, they didn't recognize your unique and specific gifts that you were delivering. They
Mhm.
didn't invite it, they didn't receive it, and they certainly don't sound like they appreciate it. So that is a really wise thing to be tuning into so that you can know, hey, I'm not actually recognized here. I'm not, this isn't a good invitation for me. And that's one of the hardest things I think for projectors to learn as we recover from living a life believing we should be generators is that we're really not meant to just always give, always advise and guide, no matter
Yeah.
who's on the other end, no matter whether they've truly recognized and invited us, whether they're truly going to hear what it is you have to say and have their
Yeah.
lives become better because of it.
I used to even have this thing, I don't know if this is connected to our type, but where if I just talked a lot and imitated other people, just like chatting for hours, I would feel this weird like sense of ick, like the guiltiness, because I was like, I need to just say what matters. And then so now I'm like really into the just keep it down to something that's like you were saying, like really focused and giving people just like nuggets of I really have authenticity and total confidence in what I'm saying. And I feel like lately I'm learning this thing is if I can just really concentrate everything and make my words more magical, they can have more power than if they're just spread around of blah 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 blah. And that made me more the 67% of the population does is I'm like, how do you just go from thing to thing? I'm like, how do you pick what's important?
That's absolutely true. Generators are here to be very busy. And when they engage with the world, it doesn't need to be as personal for them.
Mhm.
For projectors, it's all personal. Because again, it's as though if you think about food you've eaten, if it wasn't good, if it was like spoiled or bad, your whole digestion, your whole body gets sick and weak. And so it is a unique vulnerability, but also it's the superpower and the kryptonite at the same time, because this ability to truly absorb deeply the other gives us a way of seeing into the other that other types just aren't made for, right? And that doesn't make us better or them better or any of those things.
Yeah.
It's that difference, and it's knowing the difference.
Can I ask you something? I guess I just did. Can I ask you, is there any, because I don't know, I'm like, every person's really unique. So obviously Jesse's even more unique than the projector type. So I don't know if these things really like match. But I've always had this ability to let's say there's a group of people and they're all talking on this one topic. What I do is I sit there and I listen to everyone talking, and I feel like I'm outside of the group. And then I wait, and then they go, Jesse, what do you think? And then I have this weird ability to sum up and simplify everything they were talking about into this perfect structured thing instead of they were just like brainstorming. But I'm the guy who goes, this is what we're gonna do, and then gives the advice, like feeds back the advice and systematizes things.
Yep. Yes, you're absorbing it all, synthesizing it, and then, as a projector is designed to do, advise and guide because they did ask you correctly. They did
Mhm.
recognize you correctly. And that is one of the hardest things for projectors is to be able to wait to be asked correctly. And that's what I hear you describing. And also, just to drop down to your authority, which we talked about, is self-projected. It's self-projected because the G center is connected to the throat and there's nothing else defined below it, right? You also happen to have the head and ajna defined, but you don't have to in order to be a self-projected projector. And self-projected projectors are here to speak spontaneously. And as they do, they hear their truth.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the fact that you're listening, taking it all in, and then when correctly recognized and invited, you speak spontaneously, you've absorbed it, and then you allow your self-projected authority to speak it spontaneously. And that's when you will feel that, I don't know if you how you describe it, but it can feel like just this resonance of, or if you ever have heard a bell tone so beautifully. The tone is so pure, but the way that I know that it's a pure tone is how the silence after it happens. And that's the feeling that I get often with my self-projected authority. The tone is one thing, but it's the way the tone resolves into silence that tells me that I've found some of my truth.
Interesting. I wish I want to know what you mean by that. That's really poetic.
I
Like,
think
how do you like? I'll contrast because how does that contrast with the other forms of authority? Maybe they'll help me understand it better.
yes, and it's impossible for us to know what other authorities feel like, right? Because
Yeah.
we know this one. And so for you, that moment when you were describing having absorbed and synthesized and focused everything you were hearing, and then you spoke spontaneously, you can check in with yourself. Where do you feel that in your body? How do you feel it in your body? Is there a sound? Is there a temperature? Is there a color? Is there a shape? You can help yourself identify when I'm right in the core of the truth of who I am, and I'm able to just allow it to move spontaneously to my throat and be expressed.
Love it. That's great.
Yeah,
Like,
so you can just notice, and again, your definition here is mostly unconscious. So, for me, hold on, I'll just pull up my chart just to show. I do like to also let guests and other people see, and in our case, our charts are very similar, but you can see that I have one channel that is mostly conscious in my definition as a self projector. I also have another one that's completely unconscious. And it really is something that I just do that I don't even know where it comes from, right? I'm like, I don't know, do I do that? And yet it's there. So when the difference being that yours is mostly unconscious, it will be more like, what just happened to me? And look in the rearview mirror.
yes.
And there's no need for you to even codify it or capture it or write it down. So you're like, okay, this is the process. There's nothing logical about individual circuitry. It's trusting that this will always emerge from you whenever you are correctly recognized and invited and allowed to spontaneously speak. Your truth will emerge on its own. And it is a challenge to say that. in a world that wants facts and figures and explanations and reasons and data, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a part of me that really wants people to just believe what I'm saying because it's like it's almost like maybe you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if you have this, but I don't say something unless I'm like I really mean it. I don't just BS. So when people like don't believe me, it's a huge like trigger because I'm like I don't just say whatever's coming to my head. I don't just like word vomit. Like it took like sometimes I'll tell people something and I'll be like I just gave you something precious there, you know what I mean? And then and oftentimes maybe I will have a lot of explanation and I'll have all the facts and figures, but I'm like I don't want to have to give that to you because I want the intimacy of that just this is coming from the heart. Just you get me.
Exactly. And that's much more in tune with individual circuitry, which is what makes you a self-projected projector. So that is a quality that's going to be important to you. And it's the quality that's going to be the healthiest for you, regardless of any pressure from anyone else who wants you to prove or demonstrate or explain or rationalize. Like none of that will matter ever. And so there's so many elements. Let me just briefly just add that for projectors, when we're following our strategy and authority, and when we're actually accepting invitations that support us in staying aligned with our motivation, we will feel success. Success is the tastiest thing we can have. On the other hand, when we're not following our strategy and authority or being transferred out of our motivation, it will feel or taste bitter. So these are signposts just to notice for you moving forward. Then I want to point out that your sun and earth on both sides, the conscious and unconscious, they make up 70% of your design. They don't look like it on this little chart, right? They look like they're just four
Yeah.
little
What
rectangles.
does that mean?
Your sun, it's a very powerful imprint. 70% of all the neutrinos in our solar system come from the sun, and the neutrinos are how human design explains the imprint on our cells. And if you see here, you see your personality sun is 2.1. And we can just not pay attention to these numbers right now, but 2.1, 1.1. And over here we have 7.3 and 13.3. This one and this three are what make this profile over here. One,
Yes.
three. The one is the conscious aspect of your profile. The three is the unconscious aspect of your profile. So again, the earth, the sun, because of the neutrinos and because they form your profile. And the profile is described as your costume in this life. So these all describe the character you're playing in this lifetime. And this is the costume your character's gonna wear.
Okay.
So, knowing that, interesting for you of note, I would say, is that both your conscious sun and earth are in the G center. So, just to expand that a little bit. So, here's the two, that's your conscious sun. Here's the one, that's your conscious earth. The G center is also your authority. This is your source of wisdom and truth for making correct decisions in your life. And your earth and sun anchor this G center.
That's what I was wondering. Is this also like overall, does any of this stuff have any effect on the physical body, like
Yep.
physical traits, ailments, or things like that? Or, and I know that's something, maybe even before we go, I'm like, is there some kind of like meditative thing I can do that would be good for a projector? Is there's like a spiritual practice that I would be more aligned with? I'd be open to any kind of like tips for our type.
Great questions and great ideas. Each of the centers does have biological correlations. The G center is specifically related to the liver and the blood. So it's also about identity and sense of direction, connection to higher self or higher source, as well as self-love. In fact, with your gate 10 here, which is your unconscious Uranus, gate 10 is the gate of self-love, right? It talks about behavior of the self. It's how you behave, but it really is also very much about self-love. And in your case, it's unconscious, it's a line 6, so it's going to want your behavior to role model this perfect expression through action rather than words, right?
Mhm.
The enduring value of the expression of the higher self through actions rather than words, right? So this is a really powerful aspect of your G center because it does connect to the throat. So that means this part of your identity and direction has a direct route to expression and manifestation through this gate 20, the gate of the now. So lots of things about knowing who you are and the direction you're here to go in order to connect to higher source or self and self-love in the now that you can manifest and express, which hearing your question about what meditation or spiritual practice, that is a perfect question for you because it's like the question that says, what behavior do I engage in order for my connection to this higher self and source and direction that I can express in the now? Honestly, that question couldn't have been better.
Right on.
You have one, two, three, four, five, six. You have six of the gates, and the one is actually activated 3 times. So you have 9. Let's see if anybody else is doubled up. 9 activations in the G center. So there is a lot of imprinted energy in your identity and sense of direction. And this is a core, truly core part of who you are. It is how you find your wisdom about your direction and expression of your identity. And it's also how you're going to be able to express, and in this case, contribute, because this is the channel of inspiration, that 1-8. Gate 1 is your personality earth, which is about self-expression and creativity. So this means that when you create, it's going to need to be independent of willpower. It will, here, self-expression has its special timing. It will come when it wants to come, and not when your willpower or ego might want it to come. And if there isn't patience, it could create creative instability in your experience of yourself as this role model. And then lots more. And so what we're doing is, let's just imagine we went out on a boat and we said, okay, we're just going to look at the fish through the glass bottom of the boat. But then we went, oh, wait, let's snorkel a little. Oh, never mind, let's dive down. So we've been like looking at the fish through the glass bottom boat. We've snorkeled a bit, we dove down, and now we come back up. So it's this process of like constantly going up to the objective level and then down to the detail level. So don't worry about, again, learning any of it. It really is just like you would if you were diving up and down in the ocean. Just let yourself float, let
Okay.
yourself move with it. So your other gate 1 is the same, creation independent of will.
Creation being independent of will, what does that mean? I have to figure that out. Does that mean that I can't just go, all right, I'm gonna will this creation into existence? Like I have to just like, I don't know, wait for the something to happen, go with the flow of something, and I don't know when it will, but it will eventually happen.
Have you noticed either way for you, and which way creates some kind of resistance or bitterness, and which way creates feelings of success and like feeling good?
I don't know what to think. Yeah, it's hard for me to
Don't worry
examine
about it.
that. It's so
I would say that's just, again, because this is unconscious, it's something to just notice in the rearview mirror. Let's say, for instance, for your business, you're like, okay, I'm going to create this course for my clients, for them to maybe do online or something, right? And you sit down and you're like, all right, I am going to write chapter 1 or lesson 1 right now. Boom, I'm going to do it. But there's no inspiration, there's no spontaneous flow of your wisdom, right? And your knowing. So you can either sit there and criticize yourself for that and be like, "Why does this happen to me?" Or you can go, oh, wait, whew, maybe I was trying to use willpower to generate my creativity and my creative expression when I'm not really made for that. What I'm made to do is go, hey, you know what? I'm going to write that down because I just felt inspired. I didn't use willpower. I didn't make a mental decision. It just, it erupted and it said, oh, I want to be expressed.
Yes.
And so for people with this element of their design, and I would say even for all self-projected projectors in whatever way, having a place where you just can go, like for me, it's my notes app. I just pick it up. I don't care what time it is, if it's 11 o'clock at night or 3 in the morning or 9 a.m. when I'm walking my dog. The creativity rises up. I actually have that exact line and element of creation is independent of will. So when it comes, I record it and I walk away and I wait for it to come again. And then one day it'll be like, oh, that's why that came out. And
Okay. So I think what you're explaining to me is I'm stuck thinking that I have to do that there's no other way other than the will. That's just the way I've been living my life most of the time, I think, is that I go, I gotta just have discipline, and then I don't understand why things don't come. But then things will just like randomly just all over, and I'm like, you can't do that. You have to have a system. So maybe I just need to learn to like, it doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. and I have a dream, that I need to really like, say I used to just go, whatever, let it go, and then I forget my moments of wisdom and intuition and inspiration. So maybe I just need to go with it randomly, and that's okay.
what you can do then is just observe your results. Are you happier when you allow it to emerge in its own time? Do you feel more successful when you allow it and appreciate it? Say, this is what I love about me. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Versus when we self-criticize and say, oh, geez, that's not okay. I need to do this more consistently. I need a system. That's when we are doing that self-harm, essentially. And that's when we can become bitter, right? So part of the aspect of having all this openness, because you do have a lot, 4 motors and 1 awareness center, and this is also an awareness center and a motor. So you've
Mhm.
got all this openness down here, which meant that your whole life so far, other people have been putting thoughts and ideas and feelings into these spaces in you. And over time, we don't even remember that they weren't ours. They just, oh, you're like, oh, that I do feel that way. I do think I need a system. Somewhere along the way, maybe somebody imprinted their belief, their way of being on you, which convinced you that a system was the only way. And we don't have to look far because just look out in the world. Every business guru out there is
Oh,
going
yeah.
to tell you, get a system, have it be logical, consistent, all those things. When in fact, not everyone is designed for that. And doubly, projectors are not designed to do anything the way generators are. And the majority of the advice we get in the world, because the majority are generators, is going to be advice on how to be a generator. So we need to be very good at recognizing what is projector wisdom that I'm observing or witnessing or hearing.
I like that. I need to start saying back to myself after I hear something. That advice is for someone else, not for
Yes.
me.
And it can't help but be because generators really, I find, unless they've obviously been living their human design for quite some time, especially those if they're new or they've never been introduced to human design, it's really hard for a generator to conceive of a person who isn't like them. They have no way of really believing that's true
Yeah.
because almost everyone they meet is like them. And so then they look at those of us, like particularly projectors, with being 22%, we're out there. And so let's say that we're in a room of what it would that be, 89 people, and 67 of them are generators and 22 are projectors. And the generators look at us like, you're just not trying hard enough, or you didn't have a good enough system, or you weren't disciplined enough, or you didn't study enough, or aren't educated enough. Meanwhile, projectors are going, oh my gosh, maybe that is me. Maybe I didn't do all those things. But what it is that we don't have defined sacral center. We don't have consistent, reliable, life force generative energy. And they don't know it. And if we don't know it, then we'll just believe that we are supposed to somehow perform at the level they do. And I don't mean that they're all successful because they're not, but they have enough energy to keep them going. And even if they're using that energy incorrectly, they still can use it. Now, if they use it incorrectly, that's harmful for their bodies too. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All of this is amazing. I feel like I'm absorbing it all.
Yeah, good. Yes, and that's it. That's all that's correct for you is to absorb because again, we did dive down a few places deeply, but we came back up and right now we're back in the boat and we're just looking at the fish through the glass bottom because especially with this human design being new in your understanding of yourself and the world, there's this whole layer of cellular deconditioning that in human design, basically they say it takes 7 years for your body to decondition. And so it doesn't matter how much you mentally understand this, or even frankly, how much you study it. What matters is that the new awareness that you have at this point, at this level, is already altering the vibration and resonance of your cells. And that is actually the only purpose for the human design system is to begin that process of the transformation, the transmutation of your cells. And as that happens over time, and particularly it will happen to a much deeper extent when you follow your strategy and authority, then your whole body is going to feel better. You're going to feel better. You're going to have a lot more success, feelings of success in your life, a lot less bitterness in your life. And therefore, your way of engaging with other people is just going to feel better. So, briefly, I am going to pop over because I do want to call attention to the fact that your motivation is called desire. And that is a huge topic. So, don't worry. It's not anything you need to like fully understand. But essentially, the way that you will know if a recognition and an invitation is correct for you is if the person recognizing and inviting you wants you to share some kind of vision and conviction you have about a direction in life for them to go.
Yes.
That's how you know you're correctly recognized and invited. For projectors, it is critical, and this is something that Ra talks about, although you won't find much about it online or even in the early classes of human design education. But it is essential that projectors understand their motivation because you can be recognized and invited all day long. But how do you know it's the right one? If it supports you in staying aligned with your motivation. And the word desire does not begin to really describe what that is for you or anyone with that particular motivation. It's that you have the ability to see and you have the conviction and the passion to lead to the next step for people.